Okay, this is show number 7C. I'm hoping we don't have to do many of these A, B's, and C's. We did a B and a C this time. This is 7C. We introduced the new Jacksonville Jaguars general manager, James Gladstone. We introduced you to him in episode show number 7B of season number 6 of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We kind of gave you a rundown on his experience. He's been with the LA Rams for close to 9 years. I think I said 10, but somewhere between 8 and 9, 10 years. From, I would say 8 or 9 years, actually, from 2016 to about 2024. And he worked under the tutelage of the general manager, Les Snead, who I've talked so highly about on these podcasts, the Teal Shirt Report podcast. The Teal Shirt Report podcast is brought to you by Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs here in North Florida and surrounding areas. The Mad Max Mix.weebly.com and Mad Max's Wednesday night request show. Max has had to take a couple of weeks off from the show because of a surgery, a very serious surgery he had like 3 weeks ago. Hope Max will be able to be strong enough to be back on the show then. There is always something going at madmaxmix.weebly.com, though. I tuned in a minute ago and I heard Deep Purple Smoke on the Water. It's always great music, and we'll be happy when Max is taking requests on the show on Wednesday nights at the madmaxmix.weebly.com and Max's Wednesday night music request show, music pop classics, classic rock songs. Also, don't forget about JC on Thursday nights. That's right, BlakeyFallowHits.com, great internet radio where it's all good, a separate entity from Max's. Check out JC live from the pub on Thursday nights at Lake Eufaula Hits. So here we are. The Jags have a new general manager in James Gladstone. We kind of gave you an introduction of Gladstone on our last podcast in 7B. Kind of tell you what he's done. And he's had a lot to do with the scouting department, the draft, and he's getting an opportunity. It's kind of similar when the Jags hired. I mean, the only comparison I could make would be Dave Caldwell. And Dave drafted some good players, and then Dave had some stinkers. But I'm going to tell you that Gladstone has really been the main guy that's had a lot to do with picking these players for the LA Rams in the last couple of years, according to Les Snead, the general manager. And apparently he gave Shad Khan, Tony Baselli, whoever called him, really a glowing endorsement of now the new general manager, James Gladstone, the guy that the Jaguars have hired to be their general manager. So you got some young guys. The general manager now is James Gladstone. He will work closely with the executive vice president of football operations, Tony Baselli, also the head coach. It's starting to shape up together now. The head coach, Liam Cohen. And, of course, Liam Cohen is hired his offensive coordinator, Grant Udinski, his defensive coordinator, Anthony Campanelli. And the beat goes on. The Jaguars brass at this point, based on some things I'm hearing, seeing from Shad Khan also, is it Shad Khan? And he mentioned Tony Khan too. Got to remember, Shad Khan's, Shad is still a vibrant guy, but I think he's 74 years old now. So he's getting his son more involved with the team. So Shad Khan and Tony Khan. And then you got the general manager, James Gladstone, the executive vice president of football operations, Tony Baselli, and also head coach Liam Cohen. That's a Jaguars brass now moving forward into 2025. I'm also told that Liam Cohen, the head coach, Tony Baselli, the executive vice president of football operations, and James Gladstone, the general manager, who spent about at least 8 years or more with the Los Angeles Rams, will all be at the combine. It's getting serious, folks. Getting close to draft time. The draft is, a couple of months away. You go through the combine, the 40-yard dash times, what these guys can do, the tape, they look at the tape of their college football days. I'm hoping to get an offensive lineman in round one. I think a great thing is that when Tony was involved with the interviews, and he was not involved with the first interview with Liam Cohen, but the second one. And I think Tony Baselli and Liam Cohen kind of are working on a chord that they want to build the line of scrimmage, the offensive line, the defensive line. You've already got really, I feel like potentially a number one wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. You got Tank Bigsby. ETN moving into his fifth year. He is on a fifth-year option with the Jaguars. The word I've had is Christian Kirk will probably not be back, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities for him to come back. It's probably going to matter, about the deal and his health. Let's face it, Christian Kirk had a good year his first year with the Jaguars, but he's been hurt off and on a good bit in his second and third year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The draft is going to be key. I hear the Jags have as many as 10 draft picks, according to our contributor and correspondent, John Gaylor. We're brought to you by Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs in North Florida. The link to Saucer Realty and Capital is on our website, on our homepage at bigjreport.com, near the North Florida weather reports. Also in the Neighbors 2 section, you'll find the madmaxmix.weebly.com. There's music 24/7 at madmaxmix.weebly.com. And Lake Eufaula Hits, great internet radio where it's all good. LakeEufalaHits.com. JC does live from the pub on Thursday nights. And by the way, Mad Max is resting comfortably after surgery, I think a little over 3 weeks ago. Max, I'm praying and hoping he'll be back on the show very, very soon. The madmaxmix.weebly.com each Wednesday night where Max plays your favorite music pop classics, your classic rock request. And I know he's missed on the show, but keep in mind, you go to madmaxmix.weebly.com. There's music, good songs on there right now, 24/7. So those are the sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital, the madmaxmix.weebly.com. And Saucer Realty and Capital, madmaxmix.weebly.com. And, of course, Lake Eufaula Hits, JC's fantastic Thursday night show. Live from the pub with JC on Thursday night, 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time is when it gets underway on Thursday nights. Thursday nights live from the pub with JC. By the way, if you like what the Jaguars have done with the GM, the head coach, etc., the moves they've made here in early 2025, leave us a comment. Give us a thumbs up on our podcast here on YouTube. We're also on the audio platforms. Again, we're getting very, very close to 11,000 listens on the audio platform. And really, when we take a look at the YouTube listens and views that we've had, it's even more than the audio platforms. So thank you very, very much, guys. Concerts coming up, North Florida Entertainment. I kind of thought that, I knew Uncle Chris was coming. Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, opening day at the claycountyfair.org. They got a website. The official opening of the fair, gates open at 2 o'clock p.m. You can rock out with Sugar Ray and Uncle Cracker at the Clay County Fair. The Clay County Fair, those artists will be on the bill on April 3rd. The Clay County Fair will run from April the 3rd to April the 13th, and I believe that's in Green Cove Springs, Florida, a part of Clay County. Other shows coming up, too, you can find on the website at bigjreport.com in the Neighbors 2 section. I still got to add the Uncle Cracker and Sugar Ray show to the concert listing, but you'll find other listings at bigjreport.com in the Neighbors 2 section. Foreigners coming to town or coming to the area in Northeast Florida. Foreigner, Chicago, Gladys Knight, and many, many others. The Gene Simmons Band, to name a few. The Icemen, extremely hot. Man, they've been playing some great hockey. Very hot. 32-63. The Icemen coming off a win against Greenville, up in Greenville, beating the Swamp Rabbits by the score of 5-4. You can also follow us on Twitter. I'm pulling up our Twitter account right now, actually. We'll do that because we've got some stuff on Twitter. Scott Mullis at Big J Report Scott. Follow us on the Twitter account. We also have been posting our YouTube channel podcast shows up on Twitter as well. Had some fog earlier this morning. Very cool, 39 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida. There was one morning, boy, we got down to 33 earlier in the week. It's February 23rd, Sunday morning, February the 23rd of 2025. Jacksonville Iceman update. The Jacksonville Iceman win. The Jacksonville Iceman now 32-16-3 with the 5-4 victory on the road over the Greenville Swamp Rabbits on Saturday, February the 22nd of 2025. That was on the road. There's going to be plenty of games at home at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena for the Jacksonville Icemen as well. We told you about Uncle Cracker and who was the other group? Sugar Ray. I'm not as familiar with Sugar Ray. Heard of Uncle Cracker, some of his songs. We're going to pull up the North Florida Entertainment. We can find it at in the Neighbors 2 section. You'll also find links for Mad Max's show, the Mad Max Weebly.com, and also link you follow hits.com, internet radio, where it's all check concerts. By the way, Florida Gator basketball team, they keep winning. They got like 23 wins. They're going to be a number 1 seed or at probably worse, a number 2 seed, unless they just completely fall apart. And I don't see that happening. They're winning some games, and they're winning some games. Some of the scores are very huge. The Gators have been blowing some SEC teams out from time to time as well. Let's take a look at the concerts coming up. Let's take a look at shows. I told you Foreigner was coming up. We mentioned Uncle Cracker and Sugar Ray at the Clay County Fair in Green Cove Springs, April the 3rd. The Clay County Fair will run April the 3rd through April the 13th, as I understand it, in Green Cove Springs, Florida. Okay, shows coming up. And remember, make sure you listen for Skynyrd and many other classic rock groups and many music pop artists on the Mad Max Mix internet radio show on Wednesday nights. Wednesday night music request show from 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. That's 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock p.m. Central time. And can be accessed at www.madmaxmix.weebly.com. Okay, the show's coming up. Boy, guitarist Robin Trower will be in Jacksonville at the Florida Theater. Guitarist Robin Trower will perform at the Florida Theater in Jacksonville, Florida on Tuesday, February the 25th of 2025 at 8 o'clock p.m. Also, Gladys Knight live at the Florida Theater in Jacksonville, Florida on Sunday, March the 8th of 2025. Tickets on sale now while they last. Also, Foreigner. The Foreigner show will be in St. Augustine at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Foreigner, you know, they had a lot of great albums, great songs, Cold as Ice, Double Vision, Head Games. The Foreigner 4 album was a masterpiece with I Want to Know What Love Is and many, many other great tunes. Foreigner will be at the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Sunday, March 16th of 2025 at 7 o'clock p.m. Reportedly, tickets for Foreigner have been selling very, very well for this one with Foreigner in North Florida. In another show in North Florida, the Little River Band. The Little River Band will be in concert on Thursday night, March the 27th of 2025 at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Florida Theater here in Jacksonville, Florida. That is a Little River Band on Thursday, March the 27th of 2025 at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Florida Theater here in Jacksonville, Florida. Also, the mega group Chicago. Chicago will perform in St. Augustine. The group Chicago, man, decades of music. Chicago will perform at the St. Augustine, Florida Amphitheater on Sunday, April the 13th of 2025 at 7:30 p.m. The Gene Simmons Band performing at the Florida Theater in Jacksonville, Florida on April the 29th of 2025. Tickets now on sale at the Florida Theater box office on East Forsyth Street in downtown Jacksonville, Florida. And JC would love this show, our executive producer. Also, Rick Springfield coming to St. Augustine to the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Tickets for Rick Springfield, I Want My 80s Tour, featuring John Waite, Wang Chung. Remember that song they had, Dance Hall Days? So you got Rick Springfield, I Want My 80s Tour. Again, Rick Springfield, I Want My 80s Tour featuring John Waite, of course, Rick Springfield, Wang Chung, and John Cafferty on May the 29th of 2025 at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Tickets now on sale at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. Again, Rick Springfield, Wang Chung, John Waite, John Cafferty on May the 29th of 2025 at the St. Augustine Amphitheater in St. Augustine, Florida. So those are some shows coming up. Jacksonville Icemen, really, really hot. Florida Gator basketball burning up the SEC, and they're going to be a number 1 seed. When we get to March and the March Madness NCAA basketball tournament, look for Florida to be a number 1 or at least a number 2 seed in the tournament. A couple of episodes back, we did our SEC power rankings. I think that was pretty indicative on how I really thought it ended up. I kind of felt bad about Florida in some respects because I kind of had the feeling Florida should have been ranked higher than 10, about where they slotted in the top 16. There's 16 teams in the SEC, and Florida was about 10th. Keep in mind, Florida had some big wins because LSU and Ole Miss both finished higher than Florida in the rankings, but Florida knocked them off. Florida had big wins late in the year over LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. Florida, I think the season really turned for the better in the open date before the UCF game. And Florida beat UCF. Florida had a difficult loss with Texas A&M prior to that, though. A win, I believe, at Mississippi State. But, I mean, the huge wins that really, I think, saved Billy Napier's job, were wins over LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. There was a nice Kentucky win in there for Billy Napier. And Florida won the bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl, over Tulane. And the Florida Gators finished 8-5 in their 2024 college football regular season. Billy Napier, Coach Billy Napier, did name, some people were laughing about it, he did name his tight end coach as the offensive coordinator because part of Billy Napier coming back was kind of contingent on him, getting an offensive coordinator. There was some mentions of Chip Kelly. That didn't happen. Chip Kelly went to the Raiders. So the tight end coach is the new offensive coordinator. But Danny the Gator, who I went to high school with, Danny the Gator, told me it means Billy's still going to be calling the plays. So if you have issues with Billy calling the plays, let us know. Billy got some wins at the end of the year, and I guess maybe he's still feeling good about calling the plays. I think they got to mix it up a little bit more if Billy's calling the plays out. Because there was a game where Florida got beat by Miami, and the Miami defensive coordinator, they kind of insinuated they knew what was coming. They knew Florida's top 5 plays, and they ran them all again. We did hear that early in the year. Coach Billy Napier did kind of roll up his sleeves and, seemed like he did a good job coaching the team down the stretch, and Florida ended up with an 8-5 record, 10th out of 16 teams in our BigJReport.com SEC power rankings. So we did the power rankings a couple of episodes ago. We still need to put them up on the website. Please go to our website. Check us out at BigJReport.com. We're brought to you by Saucer Realty and Capital. You'll see our sponsors. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see our sponsors on the ticker. Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs in North Florida, whether it's home, residential, commercial. That's right. Whether it's home, residential, or commercial, or business real estate. Saucer Realty and Capital for North Florida and surrounding areas. Also want to tell you about the MadMaxMix.weebly.com and another sponsor, Lake Eufaula Hits. JC does live from the pub, his live from the pub show on Thursday nights. Mad Max, who is at home recuperating from a recent surgery, we'll be back at him soon, I'm sure. Let's keep our prayers for Max that he makes a complete recovery and can get back on his show, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com, on Wednesday nights very soon. Now, as far as the MadMaxMix.weebly.com is concerned, you can still punch in that internet radio entity anytime. I checked it out a few minutes ago, and they had Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water playing. So there's music on there at MadMaxMix.weebly.com most anytime, 24/7. Also, you got Lake Eufaula Hits. Lake Eufaula Hits. Check out JC, LakeEufaulaHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. And JC does live from the pub on Thursday nights. I think I'm going to wrap it up. We're just doing a couple of short ones. This is episode show number 7C. We want to salute John Reeves, my very first sports hero, wore number 7 at the University of Florida. I followed him in the NFL. He played quarterback, for the Philadelphia Eagles, Cincinnati Bengals. I don't really remember him in Minnesota, but he was there briefly. But I do remember him playing for Coach Steve Spurrier and throwing the ball around the park for the Tampa Bay Bandits back in the mid 80s, the early to mid 80s. Reeves played for the Tampa Bay Bandits, but he was my first sports hero. He wore number 7. This is episode show number 7C of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And, excuse me, we want to salute Brian Thomas Jr., the outstanding Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver who wore number 7, got over 1,200 yards receiving for the Jaguars in the 2024 regular season. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com, and Lake Eufaula Hits as well. I want to thank our producer. We're 23 minutes in, JC. Hope you're enjoying it here. We did check North Florida Entertainment as well. I want to thank our executive producer, JC, also Alex Nunnery, another producer, and our contributor and correspondent to the Teal Shirt Report podcast, John Gaylor. Thank you so much. John Gaylor, the big winner of the Teal Shirt Report Fantasy Football League as well in 2024. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This has been episode show number 7C on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We salute John Reeves, who wore number 7, quarterback from the University of Florida in the late 60s and early 70s. I remember him when Doug Dickey became the head coach around 1970, about the first season I followed Florida Gator football way back in the day. I was probably 6 or 7 years old at the time. So, appreciate you guys listening and watching. We salute number 7. The Jaguars have a potential number 1 wide receiver now in Brian Thomas Jr. Now, Tony Baselli, Liam Cohen, and the new general manager, James Gladstone of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go get a huge offensive lineman or two, a defensive lineman, probably need to add a cornerback. But I think we got our number one wide receiver locked in Brian Thomas Jr. I think Bigsby, pretty good guy, running back. I think we're going to get at least, maybe we'll get one more year out of ETN. I don't know if ETN will re-sign in Jacksonville. Hopefully he will be in Jacksonville for year 5. He does have the Jaguars do have a 5th-year option with running back Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence getting healthier. He had his left shoulder surgery back on December the 17th. And it's gonna get interesting. The combine is next for the new general manager, James Gladstone. Tony Baselli, the executive vice president of football operations, will be there too. And head coach Liam Cohen should be on the scene at the combine too. Man, let's hope things go well in the draft. Speaking of the draft, there was a really good post that Barry from our Facebook group posted about the last 10 first-round draft picks of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to hold that off until our next episode, but we will isolate and talk about the last 10 first-round draft picks of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll do that on our next episode of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This has been episode show number 7C of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Scott, your host for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And hey, I am out.